Hello, this is John. This is a review over Donkey Kong 2 Jumpman Returns, or also simply known as D2K Jumpman Returns. This game came out in 2006, is designed and developed by Jeff Kosinski, and this game has nothing to do with Nintendo. Nintendo had nothing to do with it. This is not a Nintendo product or a game. But one thing I do like about this game, it's a really cool board, is you can switch between D2K and the original Donkey Kong Arcade. And the way you do that is you basically hold down player 1 and player 2 for 5 seconds, and then you can switch by pushing jump. So it's a really cool feature. So you have basically 2 games in one. This is one of the new levels, the new 4 levels. This is called the Foundry. Your Jumpman. The goal hasn't changed. You're supposed to save Pauline from evil Donkey Kong. And this is a really challenging level. You have these fire pits you gotta jump over, these moving steel beams. I'm not playing this game for points. Just want to clarify that. I'm just playing it just to show you kind of each level and how to pass it. But it's all about timing in this particular stage. And that fireball in the top corner there, they're completely random like other fireballs in the previous Donkey Kong Arcade game. In 2004, Jeff really decided he wanted to start modding Donkey Kong. He added a new level in 2004, and he sold it on his website. And it was a lot of people liked it. And overall, the community really enjoyed it. So he decided to create 3 new levels and added these cutscenes and finally released what we know as D2K in 2006. This stage right here is from the original arcade. Hasn't changed at all. He didn't really mess with it, which I like. This is classic. Doesn't need any changing. This game is one of the hardest games that I've ever played. I thought the original Donkey Kong Arcade was hard. This hack is 10 times harder than the original Donkey Kong Arcade, at least in my personal opinion. To me, the barrel stage is really challenging because you really don't know where the barrel's going to drop. You gotta be always aware of where you're at on the stage. Later on, when it gets harder, you can kind of control where the barrels drop by walking by what direction you want to go, but that gets later on. Also, the hammer is tricky too because you cannot jump with the hammer, and sometimes if you move walking with a hammer, then you can still get hurt. Every barrel you hit with a hammer is worth 300 points. Every blue barrel you hit with a hammer is worth either 300 points, 500 points, or 800 points. There we go, we passed this, and here is a new cutscene. This is Lady, or later known as Pauline. There's Donkey Kong, and she drops her umbrella, purse, and hat. That's kind of a nice little feature. And every stage, it says how high can you get. That's in the original Donkey Kong, but those beams, everything's different. The second newest stage, this is called the Refinery. The object of this is to walk over these safety valves, and you can see there's electricity going on and creating the fire, the blue fire up in the top corners there. You need to stop the safety valves by walking over each of these white pegs to do that. So again, it's all about timing. There's a pattern. You got to watch out for these fireballs. You got to watch out for not to fall from these moving elevator here. It's a really challenging stage. I think it's very creative at what Jeff did here, and you got to watch out for a number of things, especially time. I noticed earlier on they really don't give you enough time to really worry about getting the items, but later on, obviously, they'll give you a little bit more time to get what you need to do. But later on, it gets harder and harder as well. There's only 2 more safety valve pegs I have to walk over, and once you walk over one, those fireballs cannot cross a space. Here you can see I walked over all of them. The electricity charge has stopped. Now I got to watch out for this fireball. And once the fire on top is stopped, now I can jump on it and jump across and save Pauline on top. And there you are, passing the level here. And Donkey Kong, of course, takes Pauline. And the hunt to save Pauline continues. Moving on to the next stage, this is the Pie Factory. This is also in the original Donkey Kong. Jeff changes something you'll see in a second, where instead of going just to the top where Donkey Kong is, you have to go to the very top with Pauline. It's adds some more challenge to it. You gotta watch out for these ladders that retract, and you gotta time it right so you can follow Donkey Kong and follow him, and so you can go up and save Pauline. So this is a new thing Jeff had. It's very subtle, but adds a lot more challenge to this particular level. This is one of my favorite cutscenes. This is where Jumpman decides to light Donkey Kong's foot on fire. Donkey Kong laying down there is all new sprites that Jeff actually drew, which is cool. And this next stage is another new stage that Jeff designed. This is called the Incinerator. This is one of the hardest levels that Jeff created. You have to jump over what I call pies, and you have to really wait for the right time in order to do it. And here we go, we're gonna jump across. And you see there's a heart, and the object is you gotta collect all the hearts. And every time you collect a heart, you'll see a scale on the right there, and it goes on the scale, and it kind of balances out. So the object is to get enough hearts to weight down so where you actually jump up and save Pauline. It's very challenging, but I think it's a really cool concept that Jeff put together, and it took me a while to figure this out. And the hearts kind of appear in different areas at times too, which is, so every time you play it, it's a little bit different. You know, I really love the original arcade Donkey Kong. I really love the history of it all. It came out in 1981 by Nintendo. At the time, Nintendo was really struggling in the arcade market. They had released a Raider Scope in 1980. It wasn't selling very well. They had a lot of cabinets that were just sitting there. So the president of Nintendo at the time, Hiroshi Yamamochi, decided that they would take a lot of the Raider Scopes and convert them to a new game that he actually designated Shigeru Miyamoto, to design, and which eventually became Donkey Kong. Also, Gunpei Yokoi supervised the project. He was later on designed the Game Boy, the Game & Watch series. So a lot of key Nintendo executives really had a hand in the original Donkey Kong. Another interesting fact about the original Donkey Kong arcade in 1981 is in the early 80s, when it made it to Nintendo America in Seattle, Washington, the people didn't like it. They didn't like it because it wasn't a shooter. It wasn't a maze like the other popular arcades games at the time. They were very skeptical. The names of the characters were lame. You had Donkey Kong, which is kind of an interesting name, but you had Lady and you had Jumpman. So what Nintendo of America decided to do was they wanted to name the characters, give them a really good name that people would remember and buy. So they decided to name Lady Pauline after Polly James, who was the wife of Nintendo of America, Don James. He was the warehouse manager. And they also named Jumpman Mario after Mario Segal, who was the office landlord in their Redmond, Washington office. But that's kind of interesting. And here's another stage. You notice it's kind of different. This is the spring stage, where in the original one, he changed the elevators, and he's made it a lot more challenging. There's no shortcut like you could do before. And again, this is all about timing. So kudos to Jeff for changing the stage, making it a lot more harder for us to play. Here's another cutscene with Donkey Kong. He's still in an apple when Mario's sleeping. All new sprites there as well that he's drew, which is really cool. Here is the fourth stage, which is last of the four newest stages. This is called the Mixer. This is probably one of the hardest stages in the game, and you have this conveyor belt that moves and stops. You have this thing spitting out cement, or making these pies, so to speak, and it's all about timing and getting under this thing. And you have to be placed in the right place at the right time and hit the right jump at the right time, otherwise you die like I just did. But I really give Jeff a lot of credit for making this game challenging. I think this game really stays to the roots of the original Donkey Kong arcade. The graphics are obviously similar sprites. The music is the same. And I believe if you are a big fan of Donkey Kong, you should definitely check out this ROM and this hack. You can get it on Jeff's website, which is called jeffsromhack.com. It runs about $75 US dollars, and it's a really easy mod that you can add to the board. And so it's very simple. I like the fact that not only can you switch between boards very easily, but you can also save your highest score. You also have to watch on this mixer stage these falling pies, so you make sure you have to jump and avoid those. But once you get past jumping over that thing spitting out cement, it's not that bad of a level. It's all about timing. And you can get the hat, which I always thought that thing was a mini tank. I wasn't quite sure what that was, but it's a hat. And we are saving Pauline. Here is the final stage we're approaching, and this stage was on the original Donkey Kong arcade, and there are only a couple subtle differences in this stage what Jeff did. The object is to obviously avoid the fireballs, and you have to walk over each of the spaces there, kind of the bolts, and once you walk over it, the bolt will disappear, and the fireballs cannot cross once there is an open space. Now the key is, and the secret to the stage is, there's kind of a pattern. When you destroy a fireball, which you have to do with use a hammer for, you can either get 300 points, 500 points, or 800 points. It's kind of random. But the key is to destroy and kill the fireballs on one side of the screen. In this case, the right side of the screen, because if you kill them on the right, they're going to reappear on the left. If you kill them on the left, they're going to reappear on the right. So watch, for example, kill this guy on the right, he's going to reappear on the left there, and he's trapped. So he's trapped, he cannot get to me. And the object is get them all trapped on one side. It makes it much easier to do that. And here we're going to try to destroy all the remaining both, and they're random, they move randomly, so they go up and down, and you really don't know where they're going. In this case, I got lucky. I was able to kill both of them. Now there is kind of a thing in the original Donkey Kong arcade where you can keep jumping next to Donkey Kong and you keep getting points. In this version, Jeff took that away, so you can't keep racking up points. So that's interesting. This is also new here, where Donkey Kong holds on to the beam and Jumpman, or Mario, jumps on his hands. Pretty funny. So finally, Jumpman and Lady are reunited, or Mario and Pauline are reunited, and you have a little congratulations at the end, which is a new cutscene as well. Thank you for watching, guys. I really encourage you guys to check this out. If you have a Donkey Kong arcade, definitely it's worth it.